everyone, and welcome to another episode of Everything and Anything Burrito with Liz. I am Liz, and today we have some wonderful panelists, our usual friends. We've got Ernesto, Matute, Chuck Vipperman, Lauren Turkovic, and Armando Ramirez. Don't give me side eye, Ernesto, because hold on. Ernesto Largaespada, Matute. Okay. Y'all seen him give me side eye because I didn't do his full name. So, okay.
Hey, I'm a spank. Okay, that's what I am. I'm allowed to say that though. I'm allowed to say that. Right, Armando? I'm allowed to say that, right?
We are.
There you go. Anyways, so it's been a few weeks since we had a chance to get together. All sorts of things have been happening in the news, I think, and with our government. I think where we're just going to jump right in here is the recent stimulus package that was agreed upon by congressional leaders just a few hours ago. It's something that they've not been able to agree upon for months. We've had different acts come through that just couldn't make it CARES Act and so on. But this one, so of course it still has to be voted upon. But right now, it's a $900 billion stimulus package. I'm so sorry, I feel bad I didn't record the exact number, but you know what I mean. The full details are yet to be released. Anyway, so they're now working on another stopgap measure to avert a government shutdown by midnight because they're supposed to shut down Friday. They didn't shut down, so they could work out the stimulus, and here we are. Now, here's what we do now. It's supposed to have $600 for $600 in direct payments per person. That would be adults and children. Aid for struggling small businesses by providing over $284 billion in paycheck protection loans, $25 billion in rental assistance, an extension of the eviction moratorium, $82 billion for education, like schools and colleges, so they can reopen safely, among other things they need. Money dedicated to the rollout of coronavirus vaccines. And so, it looks like a good plan. It looks overall to be good. So what are people complaining about? Well, we're at the $600 a person. I'm going to start with that issue. There's other things in there that I mentioned that other panelists are going to bring up. But as a family of four could get about $2,400. The payments are going to taper off based on certain income thresholds. Most Americans are going to qualify. These payments would start tapering off for people who were up there around the $75,000 mark, per year for an individual income. Is that enough? Is $600 enough per person? In most places in America, that's not going to cover, 1 month's rent. For most, if not all Americans. People are behind in their bills. How do we feel about this? Is it enough, not enough, too much? Where are we at? I'm going to call Chuck out.
Yeah, gosh knows, I probably have the least to say about this of any of the panelists. I hate that people judge the government's worth by how much they give us. They are doing nothing more than giving to us what they've already taken from us. That is my view of taxation in general, and I'm not jumping up and down because I'm going to get a little bit back of what they've already taken. The idea behind the stimulus package is hopefully to make things right as best as can be possible in a pandemic, but I would opine that the actions of not just the federal government, but primarily state and local governments have had far more injury than a paycheck is or a simple stimulus check is going to rectify. There were 40 million people out of work at one point. There are untold numbers of millions of people who still cannot get their full earnings back. I run my own business. Paycheck Protection Act does not apply to me because I'm the only employee. I don't get any unemployment benefits because I'm technically not employed, but my monthly receipts have gone down 75% since the pandemic began. And none of the stimulus, apart from the individual check, is going to assist me. And I'm not the only one. There's a whole lot of, small business entrepreneurs who do not have any fallback plan because they don't have employees. They do, it's largely a gig economy type thing. So yeah, I have very dim views of everybody involved in this. I already don't like government, but now it's like they're breaking our fucking legs and handing us a crutch and saying, "What would you do without us?" I'm not a good person to ask about this. I'm very bitter about everything on this. So yeah, let them do what they're going to do. I will say this much: it is nice to see Republicans acting like they care about the deficit again, the national debt again. It seems that all that has to happen for Republicans to give a shit about spending is to have a Democrat in the White House. That's because they're the biggest damn hypocrites on the planet. To hell with them. To hell with all of them. Anyway, that's my 2 cents.
Ernesto, I feel like you have something you want to. I feel like you want to, like you're there. You want to say something. Give it to us.
I don't think $600 is enough. I feel bad for those, especially who are unemployed. Like when I received the 1,200, like yeah, I was celebrating, but I felt kind of bad because I'm employed. I have a pretty decent salary. Like why am I getting this? So I feel really bad for those who are unemployed. In other countries, they're giving them like $2,000 a month. Like in Canada, whether you're employed or unemployed, you're getting, like, ever since the pandemic started, since March, they've been receiving 2,000 Canadian dollars a month, which is pretty decent compared to, what's going on in the United States, and something that I'm highly against. And I feel like nobody's talking about it, and it pisses me off that nobody talks about it. Those fucking corrupt ass churches, those mega super crazy BS churches. Look, no disrespect to anybody. Chuck, I don't know if are you like super religious?
I'm Christian, but I'm not very good at it.
Okay, like why are they receiving so much money? And it's not even
I agree with you 100%, by the way.
It's millions. And not only that, one of the mega churches, one of the pastors they bought a private jet with that money. Like, come on, why isn't this talked about? That's corruption.
Yeah, that was Joel Osteen in Houston, and he took his money and he bought a private jet. If we remember, Joel Osteen was also the guy who, during that hurricane,
the flood, yes,
refused to open the doors to his mega church to people who needed shelter and things. He's got all this money. Yeah, real piece of shit in my opinion.
Yeah, sorry. and then he's holding up the Bible, like such hypocrisy. Ugh, I can't stand it. So so that's what I think. As far as stimulus and stuff, but hey, $600 at least it's something, So.
I would get into that because I have very strong views on taxation in churches, and we are going to save that for an entire other podcast because we could go on that one. I agree with you 100. Armando, did you have anything you wanted to add to?
My views on the stimulus are actually pretty similar to Ernesto's. I don't think 600 is gonna really make much of a dent for those who have lost their jobs or lost part of their income or losing their homes. I mean, the 1,200 that was given to us, back in May or June, was it? Where, remember, it took a while for a lot of people to even receive that one to begin with. Like, that didn't exactly help in the long term, a lot of people. And now you're giving them half that. I don't think it's enough. For somebody like me who did remain employed, yeah, I mean, that was just free money. So, but I'm not most people, I mean, I like during this pandemic, obviously, because of my career, I was able to maintain a steady paycheck throughout all this when a lot of people couldn't say the same. So yeah, for someone like me, yeah, that's just extra money, but not for people who are, working in construction or things like that, where their jobs get kind of devalued because during a pandemic, people like that aren't viewed as essential, unfortunately, and those are the people that are hurting right now. Those are the people that, are struggling, like big time struggling, and
Yeah, but look,
they live check to check. They do.
Can I just say something real quick? One thing that kind of pisses me off too, though, is the fact that there are a lot of people that are not looking for work. Yeah, they lost their job through the pandemic, but they don't want to look. They want to rely on the government. They don't. There's Amazon is hiring like crazy. There's so many online jobs, remote jobs. They don't want to apply. Why? Because they're receiving they're receiving the unemployment benefits. So they don't give a shit about looking for a new job, you know, trying to get ahead. They want to be dependent on the government. There's plenty of opportunities right now. Online jobs, remote jobs are at an all-time high. You can get one if you want.
And this was a problem even before, like the pandemic, where people were trying to.
My girlfriend is an immigrant. She's only been here for 2 years. She barely knows English, and she found a job, a really good job, online, a remote job. So if my girlfriend can do it, these dumbass, lazy ass people, and I'm not saying all of them, because I'm sure some of them have been looking, but they just can't. They can do it. So, you know, that's something that should be talked about too. Of course, liberals don't want to talk about this either.
No, I do think that you make a valid point. I do know people who were looking for work. I say, hey, you know, I've got a job at my job. And then all of a sudden they're like, oh, I'm getting unemployment. I don't need that now. And I'm like, what the fuck am I, like a dumbass who keeps getting up and going to work? Before I went into my own thing, I wanted to ask Lauren what her thoughts were on the stimulus package as it's been as the details that we know.
Yeah, so I'm gonna just you know, piggyback a little bit off of Armando and off of Ernesto. Obviously, the $600 isn't enough for people. I don't know how they're coming up with these different figures. Like, obviously, we're not there to see, you know, behind the scenes of the curtain to see how all this is being, you know, decided on. But who comes up with the figures and says, oh, 600 magic number, 1200 magic number, you know? And for like people, and for people who are like not working at all, they are the ones who should be getting the most money, obviously. And I mean, you know, we're all working, like Ernesto and Armando and everybody said, we're all working, and you know, like $600 is like a little nice booster for us. But how about the people that don't have any job at all, and they're going to just receive another $600? And it's, you know, it's kind of not fair, but that's what the system entails. I know, because it has to have rules. But my thing is, you know, we're not there to see what these magic numbers are and where they're coming up with these proposals. So it's kind of hard to judge, you know, where this, how much was it? 99 billion or 90 billion?
I feel like a dumbass because I want to say, Chuck, help me out. It's 900 billion, correct?
It's 900 billion as the closest round.
900 billion?
Correct,
okay,
yes.
So like $900 billion is a lot of money, right? So we're not there to see like the breakdown and the proposals and how they're coming up.
Who's getting most of that?
Right.
Who's pocketing the majority of that?
So if you're saying $900 billion, how did they come up with $600 for each person?
Right.
That seems like chump change to me. I don't know.
Yeah.
So for the most part, I agree with Armando and Ernesto.
Wait, so is this new round? Is this new round of stimulus going towards the employed and unemployed?
This is going to go to every single American, regardless. The payments will start to taper off for Americans who make, I believe for an individual, it's like 75K. And I want to say for a married couple, it's 150K. If I'm correct, this is where the payments will taper off. It was similar last time, except for last time the taper mark was 99K for an individual, I believe. So, I mean, it's very similar. And sadly, most Americans do not make 75K as an individual or 150K as a couple. So the majority of Americans are going to qualify for the majority of the check, you know, and like I said, and even someone who makes over 75K and up is going to receive a portion. So, you know, it's, yeah, as far as the 600, how I feel about it, I do not feel it's enough money. I'm in a similar boat to Chuck, as in Chuck is a gig worker, or he's a gig employer, gig worker, however you want to put it. I'm just a gig worker. If there's no job to do, I don't get paid. I'm not an employee. I don't get an hourly wage or anything like that. I get paid per job what I do. The pandemic hurt me personally because when quarantine happened and they restricted people in Florida from being able to rent vacation rentals, I now can't work. So the boat I'm in is I spent months not working. As soon as we were able to work, I worked again. I've been working, but now that it's the off season, there's months of income that I should have had to save, to put a part of my money that now I don't have, that's just gone. So paycheck protection, that's not going to affect me either. I'm the same boat as Chuck because I'm not an employee. I'm not going to see any help from anything other than an individual stimulus check. The only reason I need it, but I don't, only reason my family isn't homeless is because Kenny makes guns, therefore was considered an essential employee, just like a healthcare worker, and he was able to keep working. So, but there are a lot of Americans who aren't healthcare workers. They don't make guns. They don't do something that, kept their family afloat. And, they're hurting. Like Chuck said, this loss of revenue, you know what I mean? Yes, he is eating and he is alive, but he's also a business owner. And every day that he's bleeding out of his ass, eventually that will catch up to you. So, the $600 is not enough, I don't think. And I think another thing, and it's funny, I was thinking about this as I was preparing the podcast, is when we discussed this on the last podcast, Chuck had said, well, my issue is people are going to just say, well, I want more money. Where's my next check? Where's my next check? Where's my next check? And I swear to you, Chuck, immediately after I thought about the $600, I was like, damn, do you think Biden will give us another one? I was like,
it's natural. If you get X number of dollars, you're not going to argue against getting X number of dollars again, X plus 100, X plus 200. That's human nature.
Free money.
Unfortunately, we're all prone to that. That's why I think the wiser course of action is to not give us that temptation. Because yes, if you're asking us, do we want a check? I mean, what person claiming sanity is going to say no? I don't want a check. Of course they are. The question is, again, we get into that habit though when things are bad or a little bad, then we go, give me some money, and it's not always possible. Of course, the U.S. government is in a special situation insofar as they can print money. There's no other entity in the U.S. that has that kind of authority. Of course, there are pratfalls to printing money, inflation being the most conspicuous of them. But again, I think we lose a little bit of our soul there too when we get into the habit of casting loneward glances towards Washington, D.C. anytime something goes wrong. I think that's just a bad habit to get into. And I think, quite honestly, without being melodramatic, you're just sacrificing a bit of your soul when you do that long term.
No, because I couldn't help myself because I was like, well, $600. I was like, that's half of what we got last time. That's not nearly enough. People are going to need money faster. Biden's coming. Maybe we'll get another one. But I think I think after that, they're going to be like, hey, y'all are getting your taxes and it's goddamn summer. Deal with it or whatever. But so the next thing I wanted to touch into was, and I actually lost my cards on it. If you could just give me like two, you know what? Actually, no, I remember. It doesn't even matter. We're just going to skip over that and I'll come back to that. Now, no, I have to go into that first. I'm sorry. I've been doing so well not skipping around, but now like whatever. Give me 2 seconds. I got to find these cards. Okay. So basically, I just wanted to talk about COVID, kind of to bring ourselves up to speed there. And the new vaccine by Moderna is basically out. So now we've got another vaccine supposed to be hitting the road. There's been a lot of delays from what I understand from a lot of upset healthcare workers I know that I've talked to who are not getting this in the time frame that they were promised, who are still waiting for a vaccine. But as we know, this new vaccine is coming out. Now, this is my favorite thing because, nothing's ever good. Nothing can ever be good. I've seen new hysteria, people who are worried about the side effects, who are, I'm not going to take it because people do dope. You did all this Molly last week and you weren't asking yourself what was in that shit, but, but we can't take the vaccine. We can't, whatever. Point is, how do we feel about this? How do we combat this? Because I am not like very smart on the human body. It's just not my thing. My prostate hurts some days, I'm not, human body's not my thing. But, seriously, these side effects, from what I understand, with my very basic level understanding, they're either allergic reactions or just rare reactions that happen it's not likely to happen to everybody. And it's something that has to happen. There's no way to make a vaccine that's not going to have these issues. So, Armando, you are actually in the healthcare field. So I kind of just wanted to ask you if you wanted to tap in here and calm the people on the vaccines, if possible.
Well, obviously for us, we've been already informed that it's going to eventually be made available to us. We just don't know when. Like a lot of RNs are just kind of waiting, especially those that do work on COVID units. With regards to the fears of like the side effects, I mean, it's kind of like how there's people who fear the flu vaccine. You know, there's people who say that they always get like a bad reaction. Some people say that it makes them sick and everything like that. Everyone's different. Me, I've been pretty fortunate that every time I've gotten a vaccine, I haven't really had a bad reaction to it. I think I understand people's trepidation with regards to the COVID vaccine because I guess it was developed so fast, right? I don't know, where we just have this new vaccine. And despite the reviews, like I think they've been giving it a 94-95% success rate, but I've heard stories that like in England, like there were like some really bad reactions to some people, and that I guess I heard that they had rushed the vaccine or whatever, and they didn't put it through all the proper like stages of testing or whatever. But what I don't subscribe to is the conspiracy theories. Like I've heard people say some really wild shit, like that if you take it, you're gonna turn into a lizard or something like that. I don't subscribe to those type of theories, you know. But I do.
I've heard that one. That's actually
yes,
pretty bad.
I've heard that. But with regards to like different people getting different reactions, yeah, everyone's different. You know, some people are gonna have some, you know, like mild reactions to it and all that. That's typical. It doesn't mean you're gonna die though.
Well, the idea behind a vaccine, I mean, the flu shot that most people get every year, it injects you with a very weakened form of the disease, so your body develops antibodies, and the idea is you get the disease, but in a very weakened form that you can fight off with little or no difficulty. First flu shot I think I ever got, now we're talking, 30 years ago. It gave me a terrible case of the flu, but everyone I've got since then is okay. But yeah, that's what it does. That's what a vaccine does. It forces your body to build up the antibodies that are needed. The only way your body can build up the antibodies to COVID is to be exposed to COVID. And again, our physiology is all of us very, very different.
Yep.
I understand the trepidation that an older person with comorbidities might have before taking the flu shot. I hadn't heard the lizard story, Armando. I had heard that when you get the vaccine, Microsoft and Google can trace you down to the millifoot.
I've heard that too.
That's what I'm looking forward to. But
I've heard that.
Yeah, and again, I mean that's the nature of any vaccine. But when I hear pretty much unanimous scientific conclusions that it's 90-95%, that's better than a flu vaccine from what I understand. So but I perfectly understand the caution that some people will have. Yeah, not again the lizard microchip people. I don't pay any attention to them, but those who have very common concerns about any vaccine. Although the lizard story is cool. I can't wait to see some of that.
There was a video of like, I think it was an RN who supposedly fainted after like, she was like live taking the vaccine.
She had some fainting spells before. I read she had been prone to it before. And then somebody said, well, why the hell are you putting in front of a camera getting a shot when you think this might happen? That's some bad PR, man. That's bad.
Hold on. So I missed a video online of a nurse getting a shot and then just
it was a PR shot from some hospital somewhere. I don't know who, but all the local hospitals here in Danville, Virginia, we had, they've invited the media over to see the chief of medicine at Danville Regional getting the first coronavirus vaccine, the smile and the wave. Well, apparently they did it to a nurse that I can't even remember where, but she had been subject to fainting spells before. I mean, just as a matter of course, and she fainted while she had the vaccine. And from what I understand, it was being live streamed on Facebook. So it was a disaster. But they said afterwards, no, she's okay. She just has fainting spells regardless. So it was funny as hell.
Yeah.
Lauren, did you want to jump in on the what we're going on
Yes.
here?
Of course. Well, I know somebody already who got the vaccine. My mother, she lives in
Oh,
the
she
nursing
did?
home. She got it last
That's
Wednesday.
good for her.
What did she say it was like?
Well, she just said it was like easy, like any other vaccine that she's gotten, but then she has to get a second one, the booster, in January. So it's like a double shot. It's like, you know, if you get the first one, then you have to get the second one.
It wears off. The first one wears off or something.
It's short term. It's designed to be very short term.
Yeah.
Just to be effective for a month or so. The second one, same idea, but it's almost like, if you can imagine a capsule being slow release.
Oh, okay.
Right.
Yeah, that makes sense.
Yeah.
It's just a booster that you have to get after 3 weeks, they said. So
Wait, so your mom took it once. She's going to have to take it in a month or two, and then she's good forever, or she's only good for like a limited amount of time?
No, it's supposed to be after the booster. You're supposed to be good for the 95%, like Armando said.
Okay.
Armando.
Okay.
Yeah, so Armando, there's a booster that goes with it. That if you want to tell us a little bit about that. I don't know if you know a lot about that.
I mean, basically what everyone's heard, that like you first get the vaccine, and then the booster acts like, you know, basically as a booster, and to kind of reinforce
it. You get the vaccine, you turn into a lizard, then you get the booster, and you're okay again. That's what it was.
Yeah.
Sorry, I can't get into the lizard story.
When I heard that,
I'll let you know if my mom turns into a lizard. Harold turns into a lizard.
You won't know because you'll be shipped by Microsoft, Lord. You will not know.
I know. But not only that, another thing I heard about the vaccine is there was an article on CBS where there were like employers saying that they could not let your employee go back to work if they don't get the vaccine. Like mandatory. I heard about this. Yeah,
I've heard that for different places. Where I work, as of now, it's optional. But I have heard of it being mandatory for some places.
I've heard that before, and I guess my question is, where would HIPAA come into play with that, in terms of you being able to keep your personal medical condition private information? Can an employer legally compel you? If you're a healthcare worker, I guess that's one thing. We can overlook a few things there because of the obvious safety factor. But you know, if you're working at a lumber company, can they compel you to tell them that you have a vaccine? You would not be compelled to tell them any other medical information about you unless it posed a danger to others. So you can say, well, COVID's a danger, but you could say the flu's a danger too. So there's some interesting constitutional questions that's going to bring up.
Well, I know that, like, as far as what I've seen in my experience, there are nurses I've worked with who have refused the flu vaccine. And when they do refuse it, they're required to wear a mask. During that time. The only other, you can either refuse it, or if you have an allergy to eggs, then you don't have to take the flu vaccine, but you do have to wear a mask. Like, I don't know those details yet with regards to the COVID, if there's any allergies that coincide with it per se. But if like with the flu, you don't want to take it, fine, that's your prerogative. But they do require you to wear a mask during that lifetime.
And if you're a healthcare worker, I mean, I think we could all understand why, you know, the rules might be a little different for someone who's directly working in the healthcare industry. I'm just one, you know, any standard employer, you know, at the lumber mill or at Target or whatever, if they can legally compel an employee to give what is ordinarily treated as private medical information. You know, I expect we'll hear some constitutional scholars weigh in on this at some point. It's an interesting question.
Oh yeah, because there's definitely going to be a person, somebody who out there who's going to question: are you challenging my constitutional rights, my constitutional liberty? So I mean, there's, you know,
I would be the asshole to do that. I mean, that's my thing. No, it's just, you know, again, nobody wants to hurt anybody. Nobody wants to injure anybody. But at the same time, boy, I'm not keen about an employer, you know, demanding that really is no direct bearing on job performance, but. Anyway, it would be, I suspect if that becomes an issue with a lot of employers, particularly some larger, you know, Google, Microsoft, Target type employers, it's gonna go to court, and we'll just see what issues are brought up then.
I'm here for it. I love it. Chuck's like, of course there's an asshole, and I am that asshole. I love it. No, but
There's somebody screaming about my rights. That's me.
Now, here's the hysteria though that's built on the hysteria. Not only are there the people who are afraid about the side effects, there's people who are now afraid that the virus is mutating. And what does that mean? I'll be honest, when I first heard about it mutating, again, I've already explained, I'm your average American who does not understand the human body or cells, or I mean, I passed biology in high school, but I wave that stuff bye-bye. College too, bye-bye. Either way, the point is that, I understand cells mutate and whatnot, but at first I thought, okay, this means that it's just going to come back again, and we're all going to get sick again, and we're all going to have to get vaccines again, and it's just going to be a repeat cycle. But through reading and talking to people, I guess it's like these things mutate all the time, and we don't really need to be afraid because we're going to be okay anyway. I don't understand nothing about that. I'm just there's hysteria. There's people like me who don't know. There's people who are certain. What do we feel about that? What we've heard about the viruses mutating and where that's going to go. Ernesto, I haven't heard from you in a minute. What's up?
Look, I'm pretty simple. I'm pro-vaccine. I'm pro-science. If you're pro-science, you'd be pro-vaccine, right? I just feel like something that Armando brought up. The vaccine was created in 9 months, and the typical vaccine takes like 3 to 4 years to make. Wow. So like, I understand why people would be alarmed by it, but like I said, I'm still gonna take it though, and I gotta give credit to Pfizer for them, like really, accelerating the process and making it. So, but as far as like what were you saying, mutating and stuff, I haven't heard much about that.
Yeah, the new hysteria, the new stuff out there is that the virus is I believe it, correct me if I'm wrong, I want to say it was South Africa is where they first discovered the virus mutating, and there's now like a new version, and people are afraid that this new version is just basically that this is going to be COVID-20, and that it's all going to start over.
So it's going to be like a different version of COVID.
Yeah, or the same one that someone help me because I'm looking like a jackass. The more questions he asks me, the dumber I look. Is there someone that understands?
No, Armando's the expert.
Armando.
What I had heard when this whole thing even started was that part of the reason that in the beginning they were really struggling with like wondering, like, is this virus airborne or is it caused by droplets or whatever, is because apparently they've believed there's 2 strands of the virus, and there was that's part of the reason why they were taking so like kind of long as far as like, what do we do, how do we treat it, how do we take care of it. Remember, they were going through different treatments in the beginning, like oh, give this medicine, or does hydrochloroquine work? No, that apparently doesn't work for everybody. Then they found out that steroids like dexamethasone work. And I remember that when I was reading about it, a lot of that talk was like, oh, well, apparently what if there's 2 strands of the virus and we don't already know it? Like, so that's what I had to remember, like hearing more than anything, that there have been 2 strands of this virus way before it's now like catching that, like, I guess, fire. It's becoming a thing. But apparently this may have been what it was the whole time. There's 2 different strands of the virus.
So if there's 2 strands, that means that vaccine wouldn't work against us, right?
Well, I guess that's why it's not 100%, right? Because because
so then
even the experts don't know, apparently, like the ones who research this stuff.
Oh my god, this is so annoying. Thanks, China.
And viruses, I mean, what I understand, and I'm certainly not a scientist, I mean, is viruses mutate. It is, as I understand it, the nature of viruses to mutate. That's what they do. And that's why the flu shot we get is a little different each year, because the flu virus mutates to a certain degree. And so we adjust the vaccine to counteract these specific changes that occur. So I guess COVID would be no different based upon what little I know.
I heard talks about like humans becoming immune to it, so we might not have to like. Yeah, you guys have heard about that, right?
Or some immunity. I mean, I think herd immunity is is the phrase that everyone's been tossing around the past several months. And yeah, I mean, there is a certain immunity that we collectively build up to a lot of things, but when some new pathogen is introduced, then it takes a while to develop that. And I'm not sure what that process is like, or if this even applies in this case. That's well above my pay grade. But yeah, the idea behind it mutating is something that's what viruses do, I believe.
Do you guys believe China like created all this in a lab, or is that like a conspiracy theory?
I've heard it's a conspiracy theory that it was man-made in the lab and all that.
You know, the way things are going, I wouldn't put it past them, but I mean, that's one of those things. There's no way you will ever prove that, even if there's an evil scientist lab in Wuhan, China, that we can't get over there to confirm it anyway. So
I just hope China apologizes. I really hope China apologizes, because this, I don't care if you guys call me xenophobic. I know that's a very liberal thing, calling. How about Spanish flu? Nobody gave a damn when it was the Spanish flu. Poor Spaniards. That was, but once you called it a Chinese virus, now all of a sudden people like get upset about that. Like, come on. Yeah. That's bullshit.
In 1918, did they?
Yeah, exactly. There you go. I just hope, China, they apologize, and we move on from there. But it's China's fault. Let's not forget that.
Trump said it himself, right? When that Chinese reporter, reporter, was asking him a question, he said, "Ask China."
Oh no!
Remember that?
Yeah.
Lauren, speak. I feel like you have something to say.
No,
it's all in China.
There needs to be international regulation on dietary stuff, like certain things you're not allowed to eat. Like, no, I'm seriously like
an international world food police.
Yes, absolutely. Like eating bats.
But we have limitations on importation of foods. I think that's probably about as far as we're going to be able to go.
But yeah, there's regulation here in the U.S. You can't eat a bat even if you want to.
No. I'm talking about within the borders of the U.S.
Oh yeah, of course. Yeah.
But I mean, I've got some friends from Japan, and those suckers eat anything that swims. I mean, anything that comes out of the ocean, they will eat it.
I respect people's culture, but there's a line you can't cross. You know what I mean? And it affects the world.
So if we're suggesting an international food police, I'm guessing that then you think that it came from the bat, from the person eating the bat. For me, I really don't know what I believe as to where it came from. But here's one thing I do believe for certain. I do personally believe that China is lying about having cured it. I don't think it's possible that like the rest of the world, everybody's just dying off in record numbers and like everything's just peachy keen in Wuhan. You can go back to like, blowing dudes in an alley and you don't have to worry about shit. I just don't believe I'm just saying, I just don't believe that that's possible. It can't be that free over there when everybody's dying over here. That's the lie that I for sure personally think China is pushing that I don't agree with. It's like just stop it. You didn't cure. Come on, man. Come on. No.
China's entire international nature is duplicity. I mean, in trade deals and in every other thing, we've come to expect it. So kind of like with Trump. I mean, you expect when he's talking, he's lying. When China's talking, they're lying. I mean, you've come to expect that for a while.
I like that reasoning. I'm just gonna be like, Liz, why do you think they're lying? I'm like, listen, it's China, so really, I don't think you should argue with me. I'm just I love that. I absolutely love that.
It is.
Okay, so
the moral of the story is that we're gonna have to wear masks no matter what. Now, still, it doesn't matter about the vaccine anymore. It's great that we have a vaccine, but we're gonna still have to wear masks. And prevent and do social distancing and prevent ourselves from getting the virus. You don't know who's going to have the vaccine. Joe can have the vaccine and you don't have the vaccine. It doesn't matter. So this is going to be going on for a while,
Mm-hmm. So you don't know ever getting back to normal for a long time.
Exactly.
I agree with you that our way of life is permanently
our way of life is screwed, basically. So, until every single person is vaccinated.
If we allow it to be. I'll disagree with you there, and this is one of those areas where we're not going to agree. It will change our lives if we let it. Again, I hate pointing this out because people call me a killer when I do. People say I want grandma dead when I do. I have lost, and Liz can tell you this, I've lost some dear friends over this recently. I have to point out that the IFR on this is 99.6%. That's not popular to say because people, I think, are very, very comfortable being, if not scared, uneasy about this. And we all want to be safe. Nobody wants anyone to die. But when you're talking about making fundamental societal changes in reaction to a malady, I'm going to demand something that's a little bit more lethal than this. I'm going to demand something more on the leg of bubonic plague, which killed 1/3 of the European continent. Yeah, if it's that serious, then yes, permanent societal changes, much like they did in Europe to react to that. But boy, when we talk about impacting the very things that make us human, no, I'm not on board with that. I fear we're going to have lots of societal battles over this in the years to come. Not because I want people to die, not because I am uninterested in human life, obviously not. I want life, though. I want to be able to go to just, I mean, the little things that make us human, just the little things. Not being able, not having to look over our shoulder and wonder if the boogeyman is going to get us. Yes, it's one thing to be safe, but my dad always told me if it's fun, it's probably not safe. And he lived his life like that. But I don't know. Again, I understand the concern. God knows, especially your mom, obviously on up there in age, getting a COVID shot. I understand that. But in terms of making basic societal changes for a disease, I just think it has to be something more lethal than this. That's all. And I know that's unpopular, but that's the way I think.
No, I kind of agree.
I am with you. Chuck and I frequent some of the same political groups on Facebook, and I also spent the weekend being called a murderer, a bitch, a plague rat.
Wait, sir,
plague rat, are you pretty good? I like that.
Wait, Chuck, sir, are you like against masks and like social distancing and stuff?
Right. Oh no. I have no issue at all with masks. And if someone wants to wear it, that's great. My issue is when number one, it's mandated. If Lowe's has a mask policy that I don't like, I can go somewhere else. If the government has a mask policy I don't like, I can go to hell because I'm going to have to follow that. There's no real appeal when the government puts down a mandate. And again, I wear masks when I go out. I'm a nice guy. I don't want to have people scared unnecessarily. But in terms of talking about long term, wearing a mask for the next 2, 3, 4 years or decade or whatever, having to present a card like we're living in Nazi Germany in order to be able to enjoy the basic parts, the basic good parts of life. No, I have no interest at all in that. And we've given up so much of our soul, I fear, for the illusion that we can be safe. And I don't like that. It's creating a society that I'm not interested in.
Yeah.
But again, but at the same time, I don't want anybody to get hurt. I have no desire at all for that. But I don't want to see people, like has been the case in Dade County, Florida, arrested for wearing not wearing a mask when there's no one else around. That's happened several times. If you're standing next to your car in a parking lot without a mask on and no one's around, you're not endangering anybody. But there are people who say that, yes, the government should possess the power to enact violence upon that person who is not endangering anybody. I think that's creating a bad society.
Yeah, like Japan, for example, a lot of people have died from suicide because they're locked up back home. They lost their job, all caused by all the stress from the COVID-19, all the talk, and it's just people lose their minds, they go nuts, and they end up. I mean, Japan has already had
when you're just inundated, there's a human condition that forms after. Back in World War I, we called it shell shock. Battle fatigue later on. PTSD, I think, is the common phrase now, where when you live in that state of fear, anxiety,
isolation
for a long period of time, you cannot you cannot stand it anymore. And I don't want that to happen to us collectively. I've seen it happen individually to several people, and I don't want it collectively to happen to us.
Like I remember during the lockdown, I was
If you're
like,
trying
just go ahead.
I think Chuck shorted out because I see his screen like froze up. I think he shorted out.
Yeah.
He'll come back. Go ahead. You were saying this for Ernesto?
Yeah, like during the lockdown, like I was just here locked up at home, and I was going insane. Like I just couldn't. Like I want to be protected from the virus. I want to stay safe and healthy, but at the same time, bro, like I gotta live my life. You know what I mean? Like,
Well,
so
see,
it's like, how do you find that balance of protecting yourself, but also like enjoying life? You know what I mean? Do you guys know?
Well, see, my views fall very similar to Chuck's. I wear a mask when it's required. If I'm not an asshole, I don't want to make people uncomfortable. If I go to a store or a business and a mask is required, I will wear a mask. No problem. I don't throw a fit or anything like that. But yes, I have chosen to go to social events, to dinners, to nightclubs, to people's homes. I have made that choice to go out and be social with other like-minded people. It's not like I go into a room and there's no mask required and everybody's wearing a mask in there. No, everybody's not wearing a mask. Nobody cares. I mean, should we? Yes. Is this a bad thing? Yes. Am I endorsing this behavior? No. What I'm saying is, have I done it? Absolutely. And so I too, because if you look, Ernesto is right. Suicide has gone up. Domestic violence has gone up. Child abuse has gone up. There are so many things in our society right now that have skyrocketed because of people being in their homes, in unhealthy situations, stressing about money. And I'm not saying that, we should just, I don't know what the solution is, but what I'm saying is that for us to ignore these problems and say that there are not direct psychological problems, family problems that have risen as a result of quarantine and the pandemic, then you're lying.
There you go.
You're absolutely lying to yourself. So
it's not just the illness itself, it's everything else that comes with it. So
Lauren, Armando, did you guys have you guys really didn't say a whole lot?
For me, I wasn't really ever in quarantine because like Armando, he's an essential worker and I was considered an essential worker. So we I went to work every day. Huh?
But during the weekend you were in quarantine, right?
No, never. I was always working.
Even when you were off?
What?
During the weekend.
Oh, on the weekend, yeah. But on Monday through Friday, I had to go to work. So, my company's way of saying thank you was giving us a COVID bonus. We actually got a COVID bonus. Yeah, for working during the pandemic. So I was like, okay, cool. So we get money instead for putting my life on the line.
Yeah.
You know.
You're actually dealing with two pandemics, with the COVID and the HIV. So
yeah, because I deal with HIV and AIDS patients as well.
Yeah, so that's crazy.
Like, I had a double life living over here with that, and I always wore my mask. But at first, we were in social distancing. Right when this pandemic came out, we were in social distancing.
Did you ever have to deal with a patient that has both COVID and HIV?
If they had COVID, we didn't know about it back then because that was earlier when everything just started coming out. No, there was no COVID tests. So I could have been exposed to everybody. I don't even know. Right when this came out, we didn't start social distancing and wearing masks until March. And when has the virus been around until? Who knows when the virus came to us, right? Armando? When did the virus
Armando.
come?
This was I remember around February it began picking up a lot of steam, and then by I want to say March 15th, maybe that was the day that we officially all were in quarantine. But with regards to a question Ernesto asked about, like I've had patients that had both COVID and cancer. If you want something like shocking and all that. But with regards to me, like I always I always wore a mask and all that stuff, and but on my days off while I was quarantined or whatever, because I was working and all that, like it was weird because like I work night shift, so when you're off that first day, it's not really like a day off, you just spend the whole day sleeping. So but other than that, yeah, like I was pretty much quarantining the whole time up until when I went on vacation in October, and I have a little something about that. There were actually a couple people who like went off on me talking about like, isn't that irresponsible on your part and everything like that, you know? But I'm just like, you know, I'm exposed anyway, because I mean, if you work in a hospital, you're already exposed. Like, no amount of quarantining is going to stop me from being exposed. You know, I hadn't seen my fiance in 8 months. And plus, not for nothing, I was feeling really burned out, because it's very exhausting to work in the field I do. I was tired. I was needing a break, and I needed an outlet. You know, just I'm no different than anybody else. You know, like we were all feeling it. I needed to get away from the everyday, like day to day, like monotonous thing, like because even if you know you're not a COVID conspiracy that you think it's fake, it still wears on you. So you know, there were people like extreme talking about like, oh, it's irresponsible, you shouldn't travel, you shouldn't do this, you shouldn't do that, you're gonna kill people, you're gonna put people in danger, all that stuff. And you know, all I can do is wear my mask and wash my hands and keep social distance. You know, like I can only do my part. But no, I just like what Chuck was saying, just because I'm doing my part to be as safe as I can for me, that doesn't mean I or any of us should stop living our lives. And I feel that that's where that other extreme comes from, where it's true. Like you should be safe, obviously. You should do whatever you can, take whatever measures you can for you. But people still need to go to the supermarket. People still need to, you know, go to Home Depot, whatever, buy essential things. And hey, maybe, you know, there's people who are in my boat where they do have, you know, a special someone across the, you know, across the water and all that. They don't just have the chance to see that person all the time. They have the right to go out and, you know, do whatever they have to do to live their life. That's only fair. So no, I don't think, you know, there's certain, I guess it comes to that point, right? Where like, at what point is it too far? At what point are you taking too many rights away from me? You know, that is also true. And with regards to like, you know, we've been talking about Japan, of course, you know, we've seen what their lockdown is like, you know, of course, people are not getting, you know, their basic needs met. They're not socializing. They're not exercising. They're not doing all those things that they need to do, like their basic human needs. They're not living life. Of course, people are going to be depressed. Of course, people are going to be, you know, like going off the deep end, committing suicide and all that stuff.
Yeah,
You
it's
know?
so sad. I feel so bad for Japan. I mean,
Yeah.
they're already stressed out with so much work. I mean, their
Yeah.
culture is like pretty much work, work, work. So imagine with the COVID, it's just even worse. So
Yeah.
I did want to end off with a viewer question. This comes from Christina LaRusso. She's down in Vero Beach, Florida. And her question is that Trump staffers are reporting that he's been discussing implementing martial law. Do we think that's a possibility? Let me just give give everybody, all our viewers, a quick rundown on what happened, where this started. On Friday, reports came out from White House staffers that Michael Flynn, who was Trump's pardoned national security advisor, and some others were discussing implementing martial law so that Trump could stay in office, which, as we all know, is basically a military coup. Flynn had publicly touted the idea on right-wing television news network Newsmax just before being invited to the White House on Friday, where these chats supposedly occurred. Trump has dismissed him. He said that there was no discussion centered around martial law. However, you know, staffers and, you know, direct sources are saying it did. What do we think about that? Do we think that this is something we need to be concerned about, Trump implementing martial law? Me personally, I don't think that that's something he's going to do. I think it's just, if it was just kind of some people talking, you know, crap. And I don't see our military supporting them, even though he is our commander in chief. Let's just say this was to really be a thing, and there was really to be a threat of Trump saying, I'm going to, you know, institute martial law. I feel like that is the point where our American military would put their foot down and be like, no, we are not going to follow these orders. I don't see our military voluntarily weaponizing against its own citizenry, which is then its family and friends. It just doesn't make a whole bunch of sense, but it's happened before in the world. So the problem for me that I see happening from this is that this is a call to violence for people who support him. It is once again him dismissing the election results, dismissing the credibility of the election. And there's some crazy person in their basement right now, like, you know, I don't know, cleaning their guns with like a little wire brush, who, you know, is taking this as a call to action. And so it's a problem. But again, that was just my take on it. I did, again, want to address the panelists again and just say, you know, what do you guys think about that? Is this possible? First, was it real? Was it possible? What are your thoughts?
I'll go first, or I was going to just say,
go.
I was
Yeah,
just
Lauren,
going
you
to
go
say that I don't even think he knows what martial law means, number one.
I don't even know what that means. I don't even know what that means.
What?
I don't even know what that means.
You don't know what that means either?
Martial law played shortstop for the Chicago Cubs in the late 60s.
That's what he did.
Chuck, explain it. You gave a great explanation when we were off air, and there may be viewers who don't know what martial law is. Please explain the law, Chuck.
Well, martial law, as it's written into, you know, what we call the U.S. military code right now, is supposed to be no more than 60 days, a period of time where a specified geographic area is under control of a local military commander, and they are answerable. That there's no due process, no habeas corpus in the designated area, and the military commander is more or less the boss there. We see it in a very, very, very limited ways in natural disaster areas,
like
New
the
Orleans,
National Guard, right?
Where, yeah, exactly, where, you know, the local National Guard commander is they can enforce a curfew, but the very, very, very thought of Trump doing this at all is obscene. That's why I think it's not beyond the realm of possibility. He is an obscene person, and he has, you know, trashed every possible social and political norm that we hold dear in the United States. And while I don't think it's going to happen, I really honestly think that some sense will get into that orange fucking crown at some point, and he will see that this would be an unmitigated disaster. I don't think he'll do it. However, and this kind of goes to my whole other questioning of Trump, I wonder how much of his bullshit does he believe? I mean, honest to God, believe. He is an entertainer. He wants to keep the audience entertained. He has a core audience that he is going to keep on the edge of their seat because this is a damn show to him. This is a TV show. And you know, a good con man is never going to show you what they're thinking. And I wonder if in his heart of hearts he knows that he's full of shit, and none of this is going to happen. Hopefully there is a better angel of his nature which will tell him that if he tries to do something like this, it will damage the nation in ways that are absolutely unimaginable. I hope that happens, but I'm not confident.
Mm-hmm.
I don't know. I have no opinion on this. I don't have to. I would have to do more research on this. Is it something recent?
Friday. It's happening Friday. It was happening. White House staffers reported Friday that Michael Flynn, who is his pardoned former national security advisor, that they were all at the White House having these chats, that martial law was going to be enacted to keep Trump in office. Now, Michael Flynn has spoken about this publicly on a right-wing news outlet known as Newsmax. So it's not completely off base to say that Michael Flynn supports this, or that that's not off base. The question is, and he was also at the White House. That's not off base. The question is, were they talking about this while he was there? So that's the big issue. And if it's possible, a lot of people in America are nervous. A lot of people right now are very nervous as we approach Trump's last days. What rabbit in the hat does he have? That's what people. And so, I mean, people may be hypersensitive to anything that they're hearing, but it has been a hot button issue. Armando, any thoughts on that?
He doesn't have a leg to stand on. The military's not going to go along with it. Just because you don't like an election result because you lost doesn't give you, any right or wherewithal to declare martial law. Like there's no evidence of laws being massively broken or that type of civil unrest that would need that kind of act put into place to begin with. Plus the state courts limit some of the powers of martial law. That's another thing. If they like, if this, like they're trying to say, there was fraud. The states have already said there was no voter fraud. They've already said that this was one of the safest elections, despite all the paranoid theories that Trump and his team have tried to throw out. He doesn't have any leg to stand on. He has no case at all.
Wait, hold on, Armando. But the fact that he's commander in chief, though, doesn't that mean that they have to do what he says?
He can declare martial law, but my understanding is that if the states are all in agreement that there was no voter fraud at all, the powers of martial law of him are going to be limited. He's not going to be able to overturn the election by declaring martial law. And that's really what he's trying to do. He's thinking that if he declares martial law, he's going to overturn the result, which is not the case. He can't do that. He lost fair and square, and he's just throwing a temper tantrum because he's a big baby and he doesn't want to accept the fact that more people hate him than love him. He just doesn't wrap his head around that. And that's what really this is all about. He's upset because he lost the election and he's trying to overturn it. And the Supreme Court has already told him, no, you don't have a leg to stand on. And he's throwing a temper tantrum. That's all that this is, nothing more.
I just hope Trump concedes and there's a smooth transition.
Well, I did want to say thank you guys so much.
Hold on. Lauren didn't say anything about this.
Yes. What?
You went first, or didn't you? No. Go ahead.
I talked a little bit about it. In the beginning, I just said that, first of all, he doesn't know what martial law is, number one. So that was my number one joke. But anyways, no, I agree with what everybody just said. He can't implement this.
Yeah.
He's doing this for a show. What is he? The biggest con man, the biggest show artist, and he's trying to just do anything that he can. Like what you said. Mm-hmm.
But what if he refuses to leave? Like, I know this has never happened in American history, so this would be like unprecedented, but what would happen?
As of January 20th, my understanding is he will no longer be recognized by the military and the Secret Service as president of the United States. So it will be Joe Biden.
At 10 a.m. At 10 a.m. Eastern, yeah.
Right. Yeah. So he would actually be escorted off the property if he insists on trying to stay.
Mm-hmm.
Wouldn't that be good though? Like if they had to evict him, like the ghetto, like they had to come put a notice at like 30 days.
Trespassing.
I would pay pay-per-view. I would pay pay-per-view to see him thrown out of the White House. I would.
Like a trespasser.
Yes, I would.
Would be awesome.
Yeah. I just hope like there's a smooth transition. I mean, that's what we all want, right?
Yeah, that's the best thing. That's what in any circumstances. I mean, like, yeah, I'm sure that people who hated him back even in 2016, when he won, they weren't happy about it. But there was a smooth transition of power there. There were no blockages or obstructions by the Obama administration. So I don't see what makes him any different that he's entitled to do that. When nobody else before him has done it, it's ridiculous.
And there's no evidence.
Let it go.
There's no evidence.
Exactly. Like that's you lost. Get it through your head. It's over. It's done.
Anyways, you guys, this has been a really great show. This was awesome. I thank you guys so much as always for doing this. And Burrito viewers, we will be back here again with a new episode. And thank you so much for tuning in and stay safe out there. Bye, guys.
Be safe, y'all.
Bye.
Bye.
Bye, guys. Good night.